Hello students, we are doing revision of history chapter 1, how, when and where. In my previous yesterday's lesson, I make you understand about how important are dates, which date are important, why we are associating particular dates, right? Then gradually they carried our focus to the British rule in India. Yesterday we end here. Now today we have to start this topic, how do we periodize. Periodize means what? Right, I give you a very simple example that your school day is divided into 7 period, right? First period, second period, third period, right? So for any particular event, any particular study, to make it easy and understand, they divide. So when historians they are studying about the Indian history, they divide Indian history on the various bases. We have two types of periodization in front of us. So let us start. First, I think I make you clear that what is the meaning of periodize. Periodize means divide, partition. In 1817, James Mill, underline student this, who divided it. James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, published a massive 3-volume work, A History of British India. He has published a book, A History of British India, and obviously he was from Europe. So he has done in favoring European, means English culture in his mind. In this he divided Indian history into 3 periods, Hindu, Muslim and British. And the same thing you learn in Form 7 also, right? When you were learning about this last chapter, at that time also they given this periodization to make you understand about the history. So there also they focus on this. Even in that first chapter also it was there, Hindu, Muslim and British periodization. This periodization came to be widely accepted. Can you think of any problem with this way of looking at Indian history? And children, you understand, you remember I explained you that this periodization is based on the religion of ruler. See, in ancient time, all the Hindu rulers were there. So James Mill divided that ancient period, right? Previous Mughal rule, Hindu period. Then all the rulers were Muslim. They were following Muslim religion directly or indirectly. So then Muslim period and then British. Why do we try and divide history into different periods? Right, so here they have given, as I explained you, that why periodization is important. We do so in an attempt to capture the characteristics of a time. Means suppose if you want to you want to learn the characteristics, main feature of that particular period, particular time. So its central features as they appears to us. So the terms through which we periodize, that is, demarcate the differences between period, become important. Suppose if we demark that, suppose till 700 800 century there was the ancient period, then Mughal Delhi Sultanate and Mughal till 1600, then after that British has started. So this demark and partition about the periods, they reflect our ideas about the past. They show how we see the significance of the changes from one period to next, right? Suppose, as I gave you example of your class schedule, that first period, second period, then that period, that bell is demarking. Suppose science period over, now SS period will start. SS you will learn this topic, then maths period will start. So it is demarcated, it is giving you significance of the changes from one period to next. James Mill thought that all Asian societies were at a lower level of civilization than Europe. Means James Mill and all other European countries, they were thinking that Asian societies are very lower level of civilization. They are uneducated, they are not having any kind of culture. According to his telling of history, before the British came to India, Hindu and Muslim despots ruled the country. Religious intolerance, caste taboos, and superstitious practices dominated social life. No doubt, all these things were there. Religious practices were there, religious intolerances were there, caste taboos were there, superstitious practices were there, but we cannot say that all the things were wrong only. British rule, Mill felt that could civilize India. So when Britishers started at that time, he did this periodization. So he thought that according to James Mill, British rule will civilize India. To do this, it was necessary to introduce European manners, arts, institutions and laws in India. Means as a writer in his book, he have written that because of British rule, Indian or Asian people will learn some good manners, etiquettes, art, some institutions should be there, law. Mill in fact suggests that the British should conquer all the territories in India to ensure the enlightenment and happiness of the Indian people. They were thinking that Indian people are living in a dark, they are uneducated, illiterate, they are living in such a poor condition. So if British will conquer all the territories, rule over all the territories, then it will bring enlightenment and happiness in Indian people. For India was not capable of progress without British help. Actually, he has written, this James Mill has written this history according to his point of view. He was European, he was Scottish, he was an engineer, he was a literate person. So his point of view, Indian people, Asian people are not at all literate, not at all having any kind of good habits, etiquettes, happiness, and only British rule will help them to bring all these things. In this idea of history, British rule represented all the forces of progress and civilization. The period before British rule was one of darkness. Can such concept be accepted today? At present, if we think about at that time, because British were in power and they accepted that Hindu, Muslim and then British rule. But at present, it is out of the box. We cannot imagine, we cannot accept this conception of Indian history. In any case, can we refer to any period only of Hindu? Right? No doubt, when Hindu means ancient time was there, at that time, Muslim religions were not at all in practice. No rulers, no person those were following. So obviously it is a land of Brahmanas, Aryans, so only Hindu people will be there and rulers will be also Hindu. But did not a variety of faith exist simultaneously in this period? Why should we characterize an age only through the religious of ruler of the time? To do is to suggest that lives and practices of the other do not really matter. Means James Mill has given importance only to British. They are thinking their life. Why other people's life, other people's religious belief were not important? When Hindu rule were there, according to him, what was the Hindu period? At that time, other beliefs were also there. When Muslims were there, at that time, 100% Hindus were there. How can we divide this period as only Muslim? Because of rulers were Muslims, so all people will be following Muslim? That is wrong. To do so, it too suggests that the lives and practices of the others do not really matter. We should also remember that even rulers in ancient India did not all share the same faith. Right? Suppose if we talk about ancient rulers, only Hindu, but they were also having some different faith. Among Hindu rulers were also different faiths were there. When Muslim rulers were ruling at that time, Hindu and Muslim both community people were there. And when British started ruling at that time, Hindu, Muslim and so many other community were there in India. Okay, so this was the British classification. Moving away from British classification, historians have usually divided Indian history into ancient, medieval and modern. You remember last year we used to tell that medieval period, middle period. This division too has its problem. Ancient means very old time, then middle period and then modern period. It is periodization that is borrowed from the West, divide on the basis of the time. Right? Previous that James Mill divide Indian history on the basis of rulers' religion, and another classification is basis on the time. It is the periodization that is borrowed from the West, where the modern period was associated with the growth of all the forces of modernity. Right? You underline this and you understand. In Western culture, what is the meaning of modern period? Means modern period was associated with the growth of all the forces of modernity like science, reason, democracy, liberty and equality. Now Britishers means historian telling that modern period, but in modern period the Britishers exploited lot. They have not given any kind of liberty, any kind of equality. Whatever the changes they bought, scientific or anything, they bought for their own use. You will gradually learn in this book. So how can we decide this period as a modern period? Medieval was a term used to describe a society where this feature of modern society did not exist. Can we uncritically accept these characteristics? No, because when British period was there at that time, Indian people exploited a lot. There was no kind of freedom to them. Democracy was not there. People were not allowed to speak. How can we say that that period was modern period? So in this, they just explain two types of classification you have to keep in mind. One given by James Mill. Here also here it is given. He was Scottish in 1817, Scottish economist and from Europe. So he wrote a book in history of British India and he divided on the basis of religion ruler, Hindu, Muslim and British, and another kind of periodization that is based on time, ancient, medieval and modern. But both the periodization have their own problem. I explain both the problems in detail. Now you are continuously learning that colonial period, colonial rule. So what is the meaning of colonial? Right? Colonial means related to colony. In this book, you will read about the way the British came to conquer the country and establish their rule. Subjugating. What is the meaning of subjugating? Controlling. Subjugating local Nawab and Rajas. You will see how they established control over the economy. If you remember chapter 2, I explained you how through their crook policy, diplomatic policies, they started taking the territories from the Nawabs and Rajas. You will see how they established control over the economy and society, collected revenues to meet all their expenses. You remember I explained you Diwani right? Now because of Diwani right, their all problems of finance solved. They bought the goods they wanted at low price, produced crops they needed for export. You will learn gradually. They force our farmers to grow the crops which they need to their country, export their country. And you will understand the changes that came about as consequences. You will also come to know about the changes British rule brought. Right? So all this, sum up of all these changes, we can say that all the types of changes, whether it is related to political situation, economic situation, social or culture, this is known as a colonization. If in definition form, last three lines are important, you can underline. When the subjugation of one country by another leads to this kind of political, economic, social and cultural changes, we refer to the process as a colonization. Colonization means when one country control another country and make all the changes, whether it is a political, economical, social, cultural, all things are changed. Then this process is known as colonization. You will however find that all classes and groups, obviously, right, it is not like that in India, Britishers have subjugated their power and they control all the territories. And it is not like that all people, all class, creed people suffered a lot and they experience the same changes in the same way. Right? There are some royal people also, royal families also, rich families also, business class group also in India, Indian citizen. They always allow from all this and Britishers honor them also because they wanted their favor. So by their diplomatic and hook and crook policies, they try to exploit India. How this we will learn in this topic, administration, produce and record. Here you will learn about their how they have done administration and surveys and police record. So I think this will be our third topic of the revision. We will do this in next class. So we will get proper understanding of this administration topic. Okay, hope you understand about this. You got good revision of these topics, what I am explaining. Still you are having doubts. And students, keep in mind that I am making you to mark underline important dates and definition. So it will help you to prepare for MCQs. You all know that your first unit test will be of MCQ type and online. So if you underline all this what I am telling, it will helpful to you in your revision also when you are preparing chapter. Students, you all have to thorough with the chapter. You have to read line to line. Then only you will be able to understand what is there and you will find out all the answers. Okay. So next class I will take this chapter. I will complete this chapter, revision of this chapter. And still if you are having any doubt in any of the topic, you can ask me. I will explain you what is the meaning of survey, types of survey, and about official records and all. Okay, students? And I think the question answers of this chapter I have already discussed in the part 3 of chapter 2. Still, I will give you PDF at the last tomorrow's lesson. So you can just have a look and you can verify with your classwork. Okay, student? We are keeping today's lesson till here. We'll meet in next lesson. Goodbye, student. Have a fantastic day.